Welcome back, fellow Illumineers, to be our guest. My name is Heath, and I'm so excited to be with you back again. We're more than halfway through. Well, I guess we're technically only halfway through. We're about to be more than halfway through because we are doing our 4-drop set review for Lorcana, Whispers in the Well, draft and sealed, your limited formats for your release weekend events, and hopefully in your local community, they go on beyond that. My area, I'm very grateful to see that we've got a few different LGSs that are supporting limited throughout the set, which is fantastic. So, without further ado, let's kick it off. We've had some longer videos. Let's try and have a little bit shorter one, especially since it's now 11:30 at night. Right. We're going to kick it off to Past Heath to tell us how we're viewing the cards in this set. Take it away.
So we're going to do A, B, C, D, F as our rating system. A is first pickable and happy to first pick it. This is a bomb or just a really effective card. There are commons that are absolutely within this territory, but ultimately it's something that you're just like, you open your pack, you look at it and you're like, yeah, this is the one for me. Love this one. Happy to have it, right? That's an A. B is, I'll first pick it, but I'm not going to be absolutely thrilled about it. But I'm definitely very happy to pick this up and have this in my deck. I will always play this card, and I'm going to kind of be picking it in the first half of the pack. C's are your, like, journeyman staples of your deck. You're almost always going to play these cards unless you've drafted so well that your deck's just crammed full of A's and B's. So you're always going to play these cards, or almost always. But you're not exactly thrilled to be taking them. You're just like, okay, these are cards that are going to fill out my deck, right? These are the cards that you want kind of in the middle to last half of the pack, and they're solid. D is, ideally, I'd like to not have this in my deck. I will play this, but I'd like to not have this in my deck if I can help it, and I'm certainly not wasting any early picks on it. These are cards that you are going to be picking up because it's the only cards left in the last third of the pack, right? Ideally, these should all be inkable. If they're that bad, you should not be taking an uninkable card that's that quality, right? And then F is don't play it. And usually that's because they're uninkable and they're like D quality and uninkable. But it could also, there could be some inkable cards that I rate as S just because they're so bad. And in that case, obviously, if they're inkable and you need ink, you're going to play them in your deck because you're only eliminating 8 cards that you drafted. So if you have, 8 uninkables that are Fs, you're going to play an F that's inkable, of course, right? But you should try never to have this anywhere near your deck, and you should only be using it as ink if I've got an inkable F in there.
Thank you very much, Heath. Always appreciate your input. Let's start things off with Anna making snow plans. She's an inkable 4/3/2 lore with support. So she is BEN. We had a couple of sets ago. So she is equivalent to an older card, which, as I've said, with the stat lines getting stronger in this set, the body's getting bigger for the same ink cost in this set. Anything that was equivalent to a card, like exactly the same as a card that was in a previous set, is inherently weaker than it used to be. That doesn't mean it's bad, it means it's weaker than it used to be. Support, I have mixed feelings about in Limited. I thought it was really good in Fabled because we had a couple of removal spells that were dependent upon strength of characters, higher strength. So that gave it kind of a little extra boost over the edge for me. Just inherently as strength buffs, I'm not thrilled because you're losing quite a bit in terms of stat lines usually, but I would say that Anna in this case is on a decent end of that spectrum. You're going to get 2 lore plus 4 strength, and she's going to trade still with a decent amount of things, or at least put a big dent in them. So I don't mind her. I would have her at like a C+ territory. I think I'm happy with. Ariel, ethereal voice, inkable 3/4/2 lore with boost 1. Once during your turn, whenever you play a song, if there's a card under this character, you may draw a card. There are so very few songs you're going to be playing, drafting, whatever, for this to be relevant. As I mentioned in the last video, 3/4/2 lore body for 4 isn't awful, but when that's the average case, not worst case, but the average case scenario, I'm no longer that thrilled about that. This is in that D+ territory. Bellwether, Master Manipulator, Inkable, 3/3/2 lore. When this character is challenged and banished, put 1 damage counter on each opposing character. This is malicious, mean, and scary with a 3/3/2 lore body attached. Now, you're not going to be able to time it as well as you might with malicious, mean, and scary, and it does require challenging and banishment. If it's banished with a Dragonfire, for example, it wouldn't activate that. But if this is the card for me that's eating a Dragonfire, I feel pretty good about that, especially if I've gotten 2 lore out of the process first. That's not too bad. Most of the time, this is going to be a 3/3/2 lore body that's going to deal 3 to your opponent's character and then deal 1 to each of their characters. I feel pretty good about that. I have this in that B- territory. Now, you might ask, malicious, mean, and scary, I had in the B territory. Why do I have this less? Because it was a singable, and the 1 damage, it matters that you can do it on your turn and set up a situation where it's going to be desirable, whereas your opponent, when they're going to challenge and banish, is obviously going to try and set it up in such a way that it is as least desirable as possible. So that is relevant. It probably should be in B, quite frankly. We'll say B- to B. We'll kind of see how things go. But it does matter. It's going to be less impactful when your opponent can manipulate the circumstances under which the 1 damage is applied to everything versus you doing that. And the song being able to do it for free, but attaching it to a 3/3/2 lore body, nothing to shake a stick at. So, Brom Bones, Inkable, 5/4/1 lore. When this character challenges a character with 2 strength or less, each opponent loses 1 lore. There's just not enough characters that are 2 strength or less. You probably only get to do this once, if they even have something that is. So it's really just a vanilla 4-cost 5/4, which is above the old vanilla stat line, which is relevant. I would rather it be a 4/5, and the ability is just so insignificant that I don't think it really merits mentioning, so I've got it in a C territory. Can't hold it back anymore. Uninkable action song. Exert chosen opposing character. Move all damage counters from all other characters to that character. The exerting probably doesn't matter at that point if you're moving all the damage counters, but here's the thing. So the thing you need to know about damage counters in Limited is it's never what you want it to be, which is to say either too much of it is from your opponent's characters that you would rather stay on there, or there's just not enough characters of damage, too many are just trading with each other, or, right? There's too many circumstances where I've looked at a board and I've got things that damage counters are relevant, and it's just not where I need it to be. It's not always going to line up perfectly. That being said, for effectively a 4-cost uninkable song that's effectively a Dragonfire, and you can set up circumstances where it's healing a lot of your characters too, because obviously what you're going to want to do is take as many challenges as you can on your turn that are going to leave your characters on the board and damaged, and then sing with your last character to move everything to their biggest character. That's your ideal circumstance, and setting that up becomes really potent. Now, I mentioned, don't just focus on the best case scenario because it's not going to come up very often, and that won't. But that's a pretty good best case scenario, so being able to strive for that is great, and it's not so far-fetched, right? So I like it, but I think you got to be careful with it, and you do absolutely have to be careful with how much it's going to heal your opponent's other characters, right? You're going to remove that 1 character, but all their other characters are no longer damaged at all, right? So try to mitigate that as much as possible, unless you absolutely need the damage to be on there. So this isn't a C+ B- territory for me. I'm willing to put it up to B- at the moment, but I might drop it down. Chief Pogo, calling the shots. Inkable, 4/1 lore. During your turn, this character can't be challenged. Can't be challenged. During your turn, it can't be challenged? Well, that's a fantastic ability. During your turn, this character can't be dealt damage, and your other characters gain the detective classification. As I mentioned with the item, giving your other characters detective probably isn't that relevant. There's just not enough payoffs for detectives that it's worth drafting them actively. So you're probably not going to have them most of the time. So
ignore that. Still pretty good, right? This is what Mulan is threatening to be in the 3-drops, but isn't without the boost characters. This is just always going to be able to challenge in without taking damage. And then it's inevitably going to be removed by the lowest cost character, the least meaningful character they've got. Fine. But again, you've gotten your 2-for-1 there, right? Now, it's on your turn. So if they've got a 1 damage removal spell, best believe, if they got David Xanatos, best believe they're going to use it on this, right? But there's little enough removal, as there always is in Limited, that I think you can rely on most of the time. That's not going to happen. You could consider yourself unlucky if they have removal for this. So I would rate this in that C+ territory, and I think above Anna. Cinderella, Dream Come True, Uninkable 2/3/1 lore. At the end of your turn, if you played a princess character this turn, which this counts as, you may put a card from your hand into your inkwell face down to draw a card. So, as we discussed with Christoph, getting a free ink, not out of your hand, or in this case, it's out of your hand, but you can replace it, right? So you draw a card and get a ramp is pretty good. But with Christoph, we had a 2/3/2 lore body left behind, and we got that 4 cost on layaway, and it's inkable, and there's boost synergies. This one, it's uninkable. We're left with a 2/3/1 lore. Now, admittedly, we get this as it happens, but also because we played Christoph on 3, we get it on the 4th turn as well. So I think I like this less than Christoph. It's still nothing to dismiss, but it's not nearly as good as it is in Constructed. But on the flip side, you're still just left with a 2/3/1 lore body. So for me, this is either like a C or an F. I mean, if you got other princess characters, maybe, but you don't even really care to ramp more than 1 more time. So unless you happen to have that princess character exactly on the next turn to get you up to 6 ink and then fine, you're done. I mean, let's not be crazy here. You're going to draft this regardless just because for its value, but let's say you're doing this on a simulator. I might rank this as an F. Like I said, it's either a C or an F. I think I'm comfortable enough putting it as an F, but I wouldn't blame you for playing it either. Della Duck, Returning Mother, Inkable 2/5/2 lore. When you play this character, you may already chosen character with boost. If you do, they can't quest or challenge for the rest of this turn. So it just spares them, right? You can't do anything with it other than singing, obviously, or using an activated ability. But again, there's just not enough boost characters that's going to be relevant. So if you manage to get this off, great, but you can't really count on that. So it's effectively a 2/5/2 lore, which is the equivalent of a 3/4/2 lore, which is the old vanilla stat line and back in that D territory. I think it's actually probably more likely than Ariel that that's going to matter. Demona, Betrayer of the Clan, Inkable 4/6/1 lore with Challenger +2, and that Stone by Day ability. Oh, okay. So a 4-cost 4/6 on the surface is fantastic. That is great stats, right? We're probably at 5/4/4/5 for Force as the vanilla stat line right now. So the question is, does the Challenger +2 offset the Stone by Day? As I said, 4 is kind of that sweet spot where it could get stuck for a turn or it might not because you might not use it right away. Or the getting stuck for a turn might not be all that relevant or whatever the case may be. I don't know that Challenger +2 in most other sets would have mattered, but because the bodies have gotten larger, that 6 strength is probably going to be relevant. There's a 5-drop 5/6/2 lores out there that are running around. So I think the Challenger's actually going to be impactful. I've questioned whether we need Challenger 6 on a 4-drop before, but remember, we used to have Elsa, which would have challenged as a 6/4. This is challenging as a 6/6. That is very, very good. This is a B- for me easily, and I would probably put it above Can't Hold It Back anymore. Do I put it above Bellwether? I don't think so, but it's very good. I might put it above Bellwether.
Donald Duck, Ghost Hunter, Inkable, 5/4, 1 lore, Detective. When you play this character, chosen detective character gains Challenger +2 this turn. Again, not likely for these to come up all that often. There's enough detectives, but so many of them are just mid, like the Basil from the 3 drops, that, and Chief Bogo, could make it happen, but don't count on that. So I would just count him as a 5/4 with a better ability, or more specifically, I think more likely to be relevant than Brom Bones. So I'd put him up there, and having the detective subtext for when they occasionally come up, I would put him above there, but not much more. Donald Duck, uninkable 4/4, 1 lore. Your other Ruby characters get +1 strength, and your other Ruby characters with 7 or more strength get +1 lore. This is effectively an uninkable 4/4. Okay, let's talk about the champions, since this is our first one. So in draft, you're drafting all colors, right? So these champions are not likely to have much impact in draft. Some of them are strong enough of an impact that it's worth taking a chance that you can make it work. +1 strength is not that. I'm giving maybe one other character +1 strength for an uninkable 4/4, 1 lore. This is an F. This is a pretty hard F too. But we're going to talk about some that might be worth pursuing of the champions. Fairy Godmother, who wants to roll the dice? Uninkable 3/5, 1 lore, boost 3. Whenever you put a card under this character, you may banish chosen opposing character. If that was the end of it, this would be exceptional. If you do, that player may reveal the top card of their deck. If that card is a character or item card, they may play it for free. Doesn't even have to be exerted like Mufasa. Yeah, so much of your deck, 90% of your deck is characters. Your opponent's going to trigger this every time. Now, it could be a 1-drop, but there's probably not that many 1-drops they're playing, but it could be a 2-drop, and you got rid of their 6-drop. Yes, you're going to want to play this, but you're rolling the dice. So you better make sure that the character that you're banishing, you're happy with, again, when the average card in your deck is in that C+ territory, you better be happy with basically paying 3 to downgrade them from the character you're banishing to kind of C+ character, right? You're not banishing it, you're downgrading it. So yes, Fairy Godmother, and a 3/5, 1 lore is not awful, right? It's the 4/4, 1 lore equivalent. So yes, play this. It's remove. If your opponent's dropping 6 or 7-drop bombs, you're gonna feel really good about this. If they're just going wide with a bunch of 2, 3, 4 cost characters, you're gonna feel awful about Fairy Godmother. So she is going to be a double-edged sword, and you best be careful with her. But it's hard to deny something that says banish a character, especially on a body. I'm probably putting it somewhere around here. Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be tough. She is definitely gonna challenge some people skill-wise and luck-wise. Flintheart Glomgold, Inkable 1/4, 3 lore. While you have a character or location play with a card under them, this character gains ward. Again, boost not likely, ward not that relevant, but it is a 3 lore character. So, he's a bad card, but he's still a 3 lore character. I'm probably still taking him at a C-, because worst case scenario, quest for 3, distract your opponent's character for a turn. Maybe they can't deal 4 damage to it. I don't know. Probably should be a D+. Ghostly Tale, Inkable, action, exert all opposing characters with strength 2 or less. This is an Inkable F. Yeah, no. Not likely to be relevant, not likely to do much. Just wasting a card. Goliath, Guardian of Castle Wyvern, Inkable, 5/5, 1 lore. Whenever one of your gargoyle characters, including this one, challenges another character, gain 1 lore, and the Stone by Day ability. So, Inkable 5/5 for 4, we're already very happy about. Does the ability offset the Stone by Day? Again, 4 cost is that sweet spot, but one of your gargoyle characters, including Goliath. So Goliath is basically 5/5 challenge and gain a lore with the Stone by Day ability. Yes, you might have other gargoyles, but let's just assume that it is just him. I think that definitely offsets it. I thought it was other gargoyles, so I had this at a C, but now that I know it's him as well, yeah, that changes things. I'm probably putting this. Gosh, am I putting this up with the Mona? Yeah, probably. Uh, 4/6 versus 5/5. Yes, challenges is a 6/6, but probably up in this range. I wouldn't necessarily even fault you for putting it above. Now that I've realized that it's him, I got to go back and change that in my chart. I'm sending this to Frank Karsten. I can't get it wrong. Goofy Ghost Hunter, Inkable, 4/5, 1 lore. He is a detective. When you play this character, chosen opposing character gets -1 strength until the start of your next turn. So he's kind of that new vanilla stat line, right? 5/4, 4/5. Again, more often than not, as long as I've got a decent amount of strength, I would rather the willpower over the strength. I'm going to prefer 4/5 over 5/4, almost guaranteed. So I've definitely got it above Donald and Brom Bones. That's easy. The question is the -1 strength until the start of the next turn. The start of the next turn matters, because maybe it's just to reduce it enough to let my characters quest easily, but usually I'm probably going to want to use it to challenge into and have my characters stick around. At this ink level, you're probably going to have enough disparity in strength and willpower that the 1 strength is going to make enough of a difference. Does it bump it up to C+? Yes, I think so. I think I've probably got it around here. I think I'm going to give it here just with the detective moniker. I think there's enough going on there. Bogo can get removed by some removal. So yeah, let's put it around there. But I would say I would have it relatively interchangeable with Chief Bogo and Anna. Okay. He hurled his thunderbolt. Uninkable action song, deal 4 damage to chosen character. You can full stop there. Yes, you can give a deity character challenger +2. That's probably not going to be relevant. Uninkable action song, deal 4 damage. You had me there. I don't even care that it's uninkable. A song that deals 4 damage, I'm very happy to see that. I think this is our first A-. I like it. I like it a lot. Hercules, Mighty Leader, Uninkable, 5/3, 2 lore. He is a deity. You can give him challenger +2. This character can't be dealt damage unless he's being challenged. So I had this corrected by Gary, by Lorcana News on Twitter. Thank you very much. This means that on my turn, he doesn't take damage. I thought it was just in a challenge. I read it that way, but it's being challenged, which means on my opponent's turn. So much like Chief Bogo, he's not taking any damage when he's challenging. While this character is exerted, your other hero characters can't be dealt damage unless they're being challenged. So there's not a metric ton of hero characters, but I haven't really been addressing it up until now, but you probably noticed there's a decent amount of hero characters. On his own, let's just take it for himself. That's great. You throw in even 1 or 2 other hero characters in play, and that is bonkers. Would probably have to rate him based on him being on his own, but I think you can probably draft enough good hero characters. They're probably going to be able to have 1 out along with him. So fantastic. So you challenge with him, he takes no damage, and thus is then exerted, and then you challenge with your other hero characters, and you are crushing it. Up here, I really like removal that's kind of instantaneous, which is to say he acts as removal, but he's a turn slower. So I probably shouldn't have him under he hurled his thunderbolt, but I'm very tempted to. Ichabod Crane, Inkable, 2/4, 2 lore. Whenever this character quests, if you played a character with cost 5 or more this turn, put the top card of your deck into your inkwell face down and exert it. You effectively have 1 turn where you care about this. Now, if you're doing this on curve, you should have a 5-drop.
but you won't definitely have a 5-drop. You're going to feel real bad if you don't. If you do, you've paid 4 for a 2/4 2 lore draw card, effectively. So slightly better than Kristoff that we established. But Kristoff is definitive. You quest, you ink. This is not. It's probably going to happen, I don't know what the math is, 70% of the time if you're mulliganing effectively, maybe more, but it's not every time. So I'm not going to rate him nearly as highly as that. Well, maybe not nearly as highly. I would say in the C to C plus range. Yeah, and if you draw this later, you're going to have nothing to play with it. Whereas again, Kristoff will always give you that ink. Not that you really care about it all that much later, but you know what? I think I'm going to bump this down here. I don't love it. I don't love the stipulation. If it was just play another character, great, but it's not. Jasmine, inkable 2/5, 2 lore with boost 2 whenever this character quests. If there's a card under her, remove up to 3 damage from each of your characters. That can be powerful, but you've effectively paid 6 now for 2/5, 2 lore with that ability. Anyone remember Jasmine from the first chapter? You've got to really need the boost abilities for this to be relevant. I think this is another D. Surprisingly few Ds so far, let me say. Maybe the 4-drops are all right. Judy Hopps, uncovering clues, inkable 3/3 lore detective. When you play this character, whenever she quests, look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You may reveal a detective card, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. Very unlikely you're going to find a detective. If it sticks around long enough, maybe after 3 or 4 tries, you'll find a detective. But you'd have to have some significant detectives for this to be relevant. So you're effectively paying 4 for 3/3 lore. I want to put this as an inkable F. I've got it written as an F. It's probably a D. I was probably just being bitter when I wrote that. But it's just, it's a trap. Katrina Van Tassel, inkable 6/4 lore. I can't stress this enough. I would so much rather this was a 4/6. If this was a 4/6, I would probably have it still below Demona, but it'd be right up there. As a 6/4, I don't like it as much because it's going to lose to Bagheera's, the 3-cost 4/4s of the world. But still pretty powerful. And if you bide your time, you can take out a big drop with this. It's probably still in that C+ territory. I'd probably put it below Goofy, though. All right. Launchpad McQuack. Just Launchpad, apparently. Inkable 4/4 lore. When you play this character, you may banish a location. It is a vanilla. D. Lena Saberwing. Inkable 3/3 lore. When you play this character, if you have a character location and play with a card under them, gain 1 lore. We like gaining instant lore, but again, the likelihood of having a boost character is low, so this is, again, in that D territory. Yeah, somewhere around here. I think I would rather even have Della's stat line and ability if I'm dealing with boost than Lena's, but... Okay, Mayor Winddancer. All right. Uninkable 5/7, 1 lore for 4 ink, 5/7 body. That's like a B- territory for sure. I think that's in kind of here. We'll put it there, but yeah, that's beefy. I like that. That's definitely above rate. Mickey Mouse, inkable 2/5 lore. Your other Amber characters get +2 willpower. As I mentioned with Donald, the likelihood of having many other Amber characters is very slim. +2 willpower isn't irrelevant, but a 2/5 lore for 4, the singer definitely doesn't matter. So yeah, this is another D for me. And probably like a low D. We'll put him above Launchpad. Okay. Might solve a mystery. Inkable action song. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal up to 1 character and 1 item and put them into your hand, put the rest on the bottom. So this is effectively a twice as expensive Be Our Guest, which means it is way down. It is definitely D territory. Minnie Mouse, Inkable, 2/3, 2 lore. Whenever one of your other Amethyst characters is banished in a challenge, you may draw a card. I mentioned that there was at least one champion that might be worth striving for. If there is going to be a champion that is worth playing, this is it. Paying 4 for a 2/3, 2 lore body that doesn't draw you a card, very bad. If it draws you one card, we're in Kristoff territory, which is like B- territory. If it draws you more than one card, you're very, very happy. The thing is, you're going to have to keep her ready if you want to be trying to draw cards, right? Because if she's exerted, she's the first one that they're going after because it's one of your other Amethyst characters. So she, I say, is she worth playing? I actually have her as a D+. I forgot I'd written that. I got all excited about her. And I think rightfully so. But I'm kind of tempted to put her in the C- territory because you're probably not going to get cards off of her, but you might. And I like drawing cards. All right, here's Beakley. Beakley, not Beakley. Beakley. Inkable, 2/6, 1 lore, bodyguard. So we've got a 3/4 Raja bodyguard for 3. For 1 more ink, we're losing a strength but gaining 2 willpower. So we're effectively getting 1 stat point for 1 ink. That's not nearly as good as Raja. It's going to survive longer. Still a bodyguard, still distracting. It's still probably up in this range here. Yeah. I'm going to put Beakley there, and I'm going to drop Flint down because I think he's a C+. Oh, no, we're not down here. We are Mushu. Yeah. Okay. Mushu, Brag and Dragon, Inkable, 4/4, 2 lore. All right. So we used to have that stat line of 4/4, 1 lore. Now we've got 4/4, 2 lore. Definitely great vanilla value there. This is going to be one that you're obviously going to want to be questing with and hope that your opponent is forced to trade with it. So you get the trade plus the lore and you're trading with something substantial. This is in that kind of C+ territory. I think I would take it over Goofy personally. All right, we're in the home stretch. Let's try and get this in under 45 minutes. Nibs. Inkable, 3/3, 2 lore. When this character is banished in a challenge, return this card to your hand. So 1 less strength and willpower than Mushu, but keeps on coming back. It has to be banished in a challenge, notably. But again, really hard not to have it banished in a challenge. So the trap that you'll fall into with these cards is you just keep playing them and have them banished and your hand just gets thicker and thicker and thicker. This is best actually later in the game once your hand's depleted to just kind of keep refreshing your hand, right? So you've always got something to play. Playing this on turn 4 and then turn 5 and then turn 6 is not going to be a winning recipe. You want to play this on turn 4. Quest once, let them banish it, and then play it turn 7 or something. Once you're at the point where you're drawing a 3-drop and you've got 7 ink, and you can put out this 3-drop and Nibs and stuff like that. Right? Maybe you don't have 7 ink, but anyways. All right, so definitely above Mushu, and I would say probably easily above Fairy Godmother because she's just so risky. She should probably not be a B-, but I'm risky. Yeah, I would say I'm comfortable having it below Goliath, but anywhere kind of in these 3. I think for me, I'd rather, I don't know, I really like Wind Dancer. Let's put him there. Don't blame you for shifting him up or down a little bit. Okay, Robin Hood. All right, this one I really like. Inkable, 2/4, 2 lore, boost 1. He's a hero for what it's worth. Whenever this character quests, if there's a card under him, deal 1 damage to up to 2 chosen characters. So, you got a 5 cost, 2/4, 2 lore, quest, deal 2 damage, 1 to each of 2 characters. Yeah, right? Again, much like Malicious, Mean, and Scary, you want to try and time this with situations where your opponent has made a favorable challenge and they've got 1 willpower left on a decent body character. You don't want to just be questing with them to just throw 2 damage on characters that are still going to stick around after that.
You want it to matter the first time because there's a good likelihood he's only going to be able to do this once. But still, being able to quest for 2, distract opponent's character for a turn, deal 2 damage on the ping, and then 2 damage with the strength, and. There's a lot of good value there, and then you've got the boost synergies to go with that. I think this is in a B+ territory for me. Okay. Search for clues. Inkable action. The player or players with the most cards in their hand chooses and discards 2 cards. If you have a detective character in play, gain 1 lore. Let's ignore that. That's not that likely. So this is a bad You Have Forgotten Me, right? You Have Forgotten Me from TFC was just opponent, chooses and discards 2 cards for 4. So why is Search for Clues infinitely worse? Well, because the best time to use this is when your opponent has 2 cards left in hand. There's a distinct possibility they might then either have the equivalent number of cards as you or less cards than you. So bad. And if you wait for the point where they have more cards than you might have waited too long, or, that situation never comes. So there's just too much going on here for you to reliably be able to say that this is going to work as just pay 4, discard 2 consistently. Yeah. I was against You Have Forgotten Me in TFC draft. A few people talked me out of it or talked me into it, as the case may be. And I think I came around to a little bit. But this one I'm not coming around to. This one is a hard D for me because you might be able to time it well, but I'm not counting on that. I'm willing to put it mid D, maybe not hard D. All right. Sudden Scare. This one might surprise people how I feel about it. Inkable action. Put chosen opposing character into their player's inkwell face down. That player puts the top card of their deck into their inkwell face down. So you're banishing a character, but they get 2 ink out of it. That's terrible, right? Well, on turn 4, yeah, probably. But on turn 6, on turn 8, on turn 9, nah, that's pretty good. Have the extra ink. You're probably never going to be able to make use of it, right? So this is not a good for turn 4 play at all. But you sandbag this for a little bit and hit their best character at a time where 2 extra ink no longer makes a difference. And that could be really impactful. Now, it's not without its risk, and it's not just something you can use willy-nilly. And, there's a possibility that maybe they've got a good amount of card draw in their deck, and you fuel them a lot, and that loses you the game. It is possible. So it is not just great removal, but it can be pretty solid. And personally, I've written this down as C, but I think I'm actually going to have it up in like the B- territory. I'm just going to wait until later turns and use this very effectively. All right. The Bitterwood. I hate locations unlimited. Inkable location. 2 move, 7 willpower, 1 lore, 1 during your turn. Whenever you move a character with 5 strength or more here, you may draw a card. I mean, you're paying 2 to draw a card, 6 the first time. So if you get this out, you better probably pay 6 right off the bat to draw a card if you have a character with 5 strength or more. It might survive a turn because it's got 7 willpower, but it's probably only surviving 1 turn. No, this is another trap. Another of those inkable Fs. Just don't fall for it. Okay. 3 left. Headless Horseman. Inkable 4/4. 1 lore bodyguard. So let's compare this. So we've got another 4-drop bodyguard. We've got Miss Beakley here. 2/6 instead of a 4/4. Same amount of stats, but distributed differently. So which do we prefer? As I mentioned, Miss Beakley going to survive longer, 6 willpower, but not really going to threaten that much. Your opponent's not going to feel that bad about running into it. Headless Horseman, probably only going to take 1 challenge, but your opponent's going to think twice about what they challenge into it. They're probably going to challenge with their biggest character, which means it's not around to challenge your other characters.
I think on the whole with Bodyguard, I'd rather distract more than threaten more most of the time. I had this very debate last set and went in the other direction. It's really tenuous that which one is better. I think for me, I'm thinking that Miss Beakley is better, but they're pretty interchangeable. They're both going to be right around the same place. All right. The Horn King, Inkable, 3/4, 2 lore, shifts 2. Whenever one of your other characters is banished in a challenge, you may return that card to your hand, then choose and discard a card. So this is not Dr. Facilier. You have to discard a card after. So you're not getting card advantage. You're getting card selection. Don't shift this also. So 4 cost, 3/4, 2 lore. Ezra is established, not good enough on its own, but not terrible either. Not a terrible stat line. On its own, that's a D+. All right. Where does this ability move it to? It is other character, so it's not going to be able to save itself. So again, if you want to get best value out of this, you're probably leaving it unexerted, which isn't great, especially with the 2 lore character. But the ability to funnel your worst cards in hand into your best characters on board, not too bad. This one's going to require a lot of thinking to get the most value out of it, but I still think on the whole, if you compare this, okay, it's 1 strength less than Mushu, but has that ability tacked on, you got to think that's better than Mushu, right? So it's in kind of the C+ B- territory, I think. Honestly, I think it's a C+, but I'm going to put it there for the sake of of balance. But nah, it's a C+. What am I doing? Come on, Heath, get it together. I do like uniformity, though. Webby Vanderquack, Junior Prospector, Inkable 2/4, 2 lore, Shift 2. Don't play the 1-drop, so you shouldn't be shifting this. With Ward, again, not that relevant, but not completely irrelevant. Because if they're going to have removal, if they're going to have Thunderbolt, this is going to be one they're going to want to use it on. When this character quests, if an opponent has more cards in their Inkwell than you may put the top card of your deck into your Inkwell face down and exert it. We had that with Hey Hey in Ursula's, I think. And then we had it again, I think, after that. Both times proved very serviceable. Not fantastic. Oh, no, we had Hey Hey literally reprinted in Fable. What am I thinking? But very serviceable. Right. This one takes the turn later to activate, but quest to do it. So in theory, it could do it multiple times. Probably not, though. It's a 2/4 body. It's probably not doing it more than once. And it does necessitate you being on the draw. Otherwise, you're probably never going to be behind on ink. So there's a lot of things that have to happen for this to be good. But I still think, 2/4 body, not the end of the world. And definitely the ability to get some good value out of it. I think it's below Ichabod Crane because it's, I think, less likely to trigger than Ichabod Crane. But I think it's a similar ability, so I'd put it right around there. All right, that is our 4-drops. Yeah, that's all of them. Wow, awesome. Okay, so we got a couple of really good ones. We've got some really solid Bs again, like some Bs that I'm very happy to draft. And we got some not irrelevant Cs in there. The C+ are still pretty good. Like, our C+ are basically from, like, Anna here. So we got a lot that are in that C+ territory. So, pretty good. Awesome. All right. Thank you all very much for checking it out. I look forward to seeing you for our 5-drop set review coming up tomorrow. And please keep letting me know how we're doing in the comments. Let me know your feedback. Let me know what you agree on, disagree on. If you've got any stories that you're excited for the release for some limited formats, thank you all very much, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.